In today's video, we're going to take a look at this fat tire e-bike that can be charged anywhere there's a sun, so let's get into it. Hey everyone, JT from Ebike Escape here. And before we take a look at the Mokwheel Basalt ST and we take a look at its optional charging system here, I just want to ask everyone a couple quick favors. If you are looking to purchase any Mokwheel e-bike or any e-bike for that matter, please consider using the links down in the description. All purchases made after clicking those links help support us here at Ebike Escape. Also linked down in the description, we'll have links to some helpful resources, our e-bikes accessories list, top e-bikes brands page, our e-bikes discounts code page, as well as a link to our newly opened shop.ebikeescape.com store, where we started to collect a lot of brands and popular items that we see used in the e-bike community and kind of put them in one easy to navigate store. So before we take a close look at the Mokwheel Basalt's componentry, the Mokwheel Basalt is offered at $21.99. However, at time of filming, it was on sale for $18.99, and we have seen it at that price quite frequently. So just know that you can catch this bike on sale. It is available in both this nice step-through, and this is a removable option, so you could get all of that step-through frame if you needed it, but is also offered in a high-step version with a top tube. There are specific colors for the step-through and high-step versions. The step-through is offered in a white, olive green, and this beautiful orange. So we understand this orange is not for everyone, so it is offered in those two other colors if this is a little too bright for you. The high step is available in a steel blue, a gray, and a jungle camo. And thanks to this step-through frame, there is a little bit of a larger height range available on the step-through, as well as the step-through is available in two different frame options. It is a normal and a large. The normal has a height range of 5'2" up to 6'4", and the large has a height range of 5'6" to 6'8". The high step only has that one frame size and is available, recommended for riders 5'6" up to 6'8". It does have a fairly robust frame design, which means that it has a capacity of 400 pounds. So with that overview out of the way, let's take a close look at the componentry. Starting up here in the front, you'll notice we have some Chow Yang 26 by 4-inch fat tires. These are fairly knobby tread, so they could definitely handle some crushed gravel paths, as well as we have a little bit of a reflective sidewall here. And these are listed as being 3mm hippo skin, so they should be armored on the side to maybe help provide some protection, but there are inserts if you need a little bit more, say you live near goat heads. Coming around over here, for the price, we are happy to see Tektro hydraulic disc brakes, as well as a Tektro 180mm front rotor. You will also notice this is a bolt-on front skewer, so you will not be able to easily remove the front wheel for transport. However, with a bike this size, we don't think transporting it in the back of your car is the best idea anyway. Here's a look at the fender mount for the front plastic fender. It is a fairly full coverage front fender. Those come included. And then here's a look at the Overlord front suspension fork. This is a hydraulic front fork. It has a preload adjustment knob on this side, as well as a little bit of a adjustment knob on this side that clicks, as well as has a lockout. Let me go ahead and throw you guys on the stand and give you an example of how that suspension works. Give it a couple pushes here. It's definitely a springier front end, but let's go up a couple clicks before we get to that lock. I feel like maybe it's stiffened up a little bit. We'll rotate it all the way around, and there it is, fully locked out. So it is nice that you do have some adjustment here. And on a little bit of a styling cue, we typically see silver stanchions here, but these are all black. Really kind of helps tie in the orange and black accents that are all throughout the bike. Not something we see all the time. Coming back in here to the front, here's a look at this dual beam LED front headlight. It's a pretty bright front headlight, has a reflector underneath, and also it is mounted on the fork, so it will turn with your handlebars, so it should provide a little bit of extra visibility while riding. Here's a look at the 4 front basket mounts on the front here with the Mokwheel M behind them. Mokwheel does offer a front basket for this bike. We'll put that on the screen now, as well as the price. And I almost couldn't get it out of the way because it's wrapped so nicely. We have the wiring here. So the wiring disappears into the down tube and then comes out and almost immediately jumps into this wrap and is wrapped almost all the way up to the controls as much as it can. But we do have this little bit extra tail hanging off here. That leads us up to the cockpit. Here's a look at the Tektro hydraulic disc brake levers. And then coming around, we have some Mokwheel branded kind of faux leather locking grips. They do feel pretty nice on the palms. This is also a little bit of a gel insert where the Mokwheel is. So you have ergonomic and a little bit of extra cushion. Here's a look at the left-hand thumb throttle. And you have this 4-button control over here, as well as a horn button on the underside. We will get into the display here in a minute. And then over on the right side, we have a Shimano trigger shifter here that's mounted on the underside, a matching locking grip, and a matching Tetra hydraulic disc brake lever. And while we're up here talking about the cockpit, it's a good time to talk about this Zoom adjustable stem. Always nice to see an adjustable stem included. Saves you from having to put it on later. It really allows you to tune the cockpit to fit your riding style and really maybe even take some pressure off your wrists. Moving back up, here's a look at the display. Now I have polarized sunglasses on right now, as well as being in the direct sunlight, so it's a little difficult to see. Let's go ahead and push down into some shade and let's go through the display settings. All right, here we are down in the shade. Should be a little bit easier to see the display. I kind of talked a little bit about the buttons before, but on the top here we have a power button, which you hold to turn the bike on. You gotta hold it for a little bit longer than I was used to. But then you get hello comes up on the screen. It's a nice LCD color display. The drawback of any LCD color display for the vibrant colors and things like that is sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to see in direct sunlight, or if you have polarized sunglasses on. On the left here, you have an up and down button, a light button for turning the headlight on and off, headlight and tail light for that matter. And then on the bottom here, like I already said, you have a horn button. Now that horn is electronically actuated and can only be used when the bike is on. Here's a close look at the display. Front and center, we've got speed. On the left and right, you'll notice those little green dashes. Those are the battery percentage of charge. And then I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but there's like a gray outline just on the inside of those. That is the speed, the power meter there. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick the bike up on the kickstand, give it a little bit of throttle here. Gotta go up to pedal assist level 1. And you'll notice that bar kind of goes up there. So there you go. So that bar is the amount of power that the motor is providing at that moment. Kind of like a watt meter we've seen on some other bikes. On the left-hand side, you notice it says trip, and that is in miles. Right-hand side, we have time. That's the amount of time that the bike has been on. And then at the bottom there, you have your pedal assist, which is 0 all the way up to 5. One nice thing about this bike is that when you're in pedal assist level 0, you do not have access to the throttle, so you don't have to worry about accidentally hitting that. And then there are 2 menus on here. The first one is actually, I believe, called Functions menu. So what you do is you press and hold the up and down button at the same time. And here you have your function settings. First one is going to be brightness. To get into the setting, you'll hit power and see 0 to 3 level. And then once you have picked by navigating to which one you want via the arrows, you push the power button to set. Units, where you can switch between miles per hour and kilometers per hour. Startup mode, which is where you can pick free mode, which is that you can use the throttle to start out, or safe mode, where you have to pedal to start off and then the throttle becomes active. Nice that that is something you can cycle on and off. The bike does come shipped in free mode. Then you have reset trip. This resets your current trip and time. It does not reset the total bike's mileage. And then when you are done on this menu, you push the light button and that'll jump you back out here to the main menu. Now, there is also an advanced settings menu, which is a little bit trickier to get into. What I found is you push the center of the up and down button at the same time and the light button, and you hold all 3 at the same time. Get into the technical settings. First one is going to be the speed limit. So we're going to go push the power button to get into that, and it's up to 28. We're going to go ahead and turn that up just to see what this bike is capable of. It does come shipped as a class 3 e-bike. We're going to go ahead and just turn that up to 50. I do not believe the bike will do 50 miles an hour. Once it's set, push the power button. Power assist gear, that is how many power assist levels you have. You can do 0 to 3 or 0 to 5. We're going to leave it on 0 to 5. Voltage level, that's the voltage that the bike operates on, not something you want to mess with. Wheel diameter, that is listed as 29 inch because with the fat tires. If your speedometer is a little off, you can dial it in there. Then we have tacho magnets. Now that is going to have to do with the pedal assist sensor. I don't recommend you mess with that at all. Go down and you have ride modes. Here you can pick how you are actually getting motor power. You could do pedal and motor, which is what it comes standard as. Do it when you only get additional power when you're pedaling, or only when you're using the throttle. We're gonna go ahead and just leave that to where we get power in both. Your intensity settings, so you could turn up how intense the power comes on. That is all the way up to 5. It comes shipped at a 3. We're gonna go ahead and leave that at 3. And then you also have factory reset. So if you happen to maybe accidentally mess with the tacho magnets setting and your bike isn't operating correctly, you can just go here to factory settings and reset it. So now that we are done here, we're going to push the light button to jump out. That is all of the settings on this display, more than most, and nice to see that you can kind of customize the bike to fit your needs. Let's go and push back out into the sunlight and talk some more about the rest of the bike. Working our way down from the cockpit, here's a close-up look at this bright orange paint job, as well as this smooth weld. There are no like exposed welds here. They're smoothed in here, as well as all down here. All of these are just nice smooth sections. It's a very clean looking frame, not something we see all the time. Here's a look at the lock section for the battery. You have Mokwheel branding on the down tube. As well as on top here, you have Basalt ST, and it switches from black to almost this like aluminum color or tape here. Kind of a nice feature to see, not something we've really seen before, and it fades down to black. Here's a look at the Scion LP metal pedal. Pretty standard metal pedals, very similar to ones we've seen on other bikes. If you're looking for something maybe with a little bit more color to help you stand out against that orange, we have our e-bike accessories list where we have some pedals that we recommend and have put quite a few miles on. Down here on the side, you notice we have these 2 ports. I'll talk about those a little bit more when we get to the battery and charging section of the walk around. Here's a look at this lower plastic cover. Almost looks like it's a mid-drive bike, but it is not. This is really just the controller housing and stuff. Really makes it easy if you ever have to, say, get to any of that wiring. And then tucked down here nicely, I don't know if it'll stand out to you, but it does to me. This Basalt ST has a torque sensor. That's right, not something we see on a lot of fat tire e-bikes for that matter, but it is nice to see a torque sensor. The big difference, if you're not familiar, is that a torque sensor will actually measure the amount of power and rotations that you're putting in and amplify the power output of the motor to kind of match what you're putting in, whereas a cadence sensor is more like an on-off switch. And it just basically reads, are you pedaling? Yes. Power? Are you not pedaling? Okay, power off. So a torque sensor actually has a little bit more measuring and adjustments it makes in there. It just makes for a much more pleasant push pedal experience. Now that all comes down to tuning, we'll be sure to talk about that in our first person riding footage, which will happen right after the conclusion of this up close walk around. Coming down this rear chainstay, it has Basalt ST in that aluminum tape again with that bright orange. Here's a look at the Textro rear hydraulic disc brake. Here's a look at the rear kickstand, which is nicely out of the way of the pedals, of course. It's a matching 180 millimeter rear rotor. And then right above that stuff, we have the included plastic rear fenders. They're pretty full coverage fenders. Nice, these come pre-installed. And then above that, we have the Mokwheel rear rack that comes included, as well as the rear brake light. That's right, this is a brake light. I have the headlights on right now. So that top part of the headlight there is illuminated when you have the headlights on. And then if I reach up here and I pull the brakes, you will see that most of the rest of the headlight actually illuminates as you actuate the brake levers. Here we have a Mokwheel branded rear motor. This is a 48 volt system, and this is listed as a 750 watt motor that I'm almost certain is gonna be peaking quite a bit higher than that. Stay tuned to our hill climb footage to see if it's capable of carrying me, a 225 pound rider, up our hill. Coming out from the motor here, we have a 14 to 28 tooth rear Shimano freewheel. And then up front, it has a 44 tooth front chainring. Always wish that these more powerful bikes came with an 11 to 28 tooth rear freewheel, but we'll definitely be sure to tell you if we run into any ghost pedaling in our first person riding footage. And then just below that, here we have a Shimano turning rear derailleur. This is on the entry level of Shimano components, but we found it to be perfectly adequate. Here on the back, you have a barrel adjuster if you ever need to dial in any of your shifting. On this side, we have a matching metal pedal, as well as a single-sided metal chainring cover. And then coming up from the pedals, this is like a little glove box, actually the inverter holder for the charging system. This can be removed if you need that extra step-through room, or if you wanted a little bit extra storage, it's a great option. You can also remove this, simply twist it 90 degrees and it comes off. Has a mount there, and there is the mount on the frame. That is also removable. And speaking of mounts on the frame, here are 2 bottle cage bosses that you could mount a water bottle cage with. We also have a anywhere mount bottle cage boss, which is a 2-bolt system on a strap that you could kind of mount anywhere if you didn't like that bottle placement, or maybe wanted a little bit higher up. And then coming back here too, here's a look at the seat on the Mokwheel. Now, the little bit of riding I did do on this is a fairly plush and comfortable seat. It's a little bit wider than most, but seats are things that are kind of left up to rider discretion or really rider feel. So be sure to check our accessories list where we have collected quite a few brands. The Cloud9 and YLG seat are 2 of the other very popularly recommended seats that we see. With all of that overview out of the way, let's talk about the battery and the solar charging system. All right, here is a look at the Mokwheel solar charging setup here. This is the 8-panel solar briefcase kit, as well as the 1000 watt inverter here. This inverter is what fits into that little glove compartment box that I had mounted there. And then you have this one wire that goes in and runs to the backside of the solar panel that mounts inside of this little pouch back here. One thing I do want to call out is that the stands for these solar panels are not the best. They're simply fabric kind of mounted here to the back. So you do want to be a little careful with where you're setting it up, but it kind of adds to the portability and the lightness of this panel setup. Allows you to be able to really charge and operate your bike anywhere. So what does this inverter and solar charging kit cost? Well, the inverter comes in at $399 and the solar panels come in at $599. And then there is also a suitcase which allows you to carry the inverter and solar panels a little bit more nicely, which comes in at $130. However, the solar panels do fold up into a nice, easy to carry package that has a handle included. But the briefcase, if you're going to be using this quite frequently or traveling with it, might be a nice way to help keep them all protected. Now, Mokwheel claims with this setup in full direct sunlight, you'll be able to recharge the battery from 0 to full on the Basalt, which is a 19.6 amp hour battery, so not a small battery, all the way from 0 to 100% in about 5 hours, of course, depending on the sunlight that you have. The Mokwheel Basalt also comes with a 3 amp charger, so that 5-hour estimate is a little bit faster than what the standard charger would actually be able to charge this battery up to. This solar power and inverter kit work on both the Basalt and the Skora. Currently, those are the only 2 models from Mokwheel that this works on. Also, we have seen the inverter come included on some Mokwheels before when they were on sale. So just keep an eye out there for maybe sales if this is something you really want. You do not need the solar panel kit to use the inverter. The inverter can simply run off of the Mokwheel battery, which would allow you to use the battery to power, say, a laptop or things like that. They also have a nice chart that tells you how much usage you'll be able to get out of a certain device depending on its wattage output. We'll go ahead and throw that on the screen now. Kind of easy to reference if you actually have a use case for this inverter or even solar panel and battery system in mind. All right, let's go ahead and pull the battery out of the Mokwheel Basalt. In order to get the battery out, you need the keys. I have already put them in on the driver's side of the bike. You simply twist the keys towards the back of the bike and the battery will fall down and catch on a little bit of a latch. To undo it from there, make sure your hand is in the right place. You push that latch to the side. You can push it either to the right or left, and the battery will come out. You simply lift up on it. Sometimes we found it's a little difficult with the fat tires here, but not terribly difficult. This is listed as a 19.6 amp hour. That is a 924.9 watt hour battery. It says it has Samsung cells in it. Down here on the bottom, we have the charging port. And up here on the top, we have a 5 LED display for battery percentage in the battery. As well as on the side here, I did notice this is the same plug as the inverter. So the cable for the inverter, if it's not on the bike, will actually just plug in right here. So it could be done even if you don't have the bike. You could bring the battery with you, bring the solar and stuff. If you needed a little bit of a power bank system for you. Quite heavier than some of the power banks we currently carry around. But nice to know that you have some versatility here. This is a pretty big battery from what we've seen. 19.6 amp hours, especially with the torque sensor, should give you somewhere in the range of about 60 to 80 miles. We got 60 miles on a 20 amp hour battery on a cadence sensor bike. Torque sensors allow you to really extend that range a little bit more. So we do expect that you could get 60 to 80 miles out of this. To put the battery back in, you line up the bottom, put the bottom in first, and then you just grab it and push it in. And what we like to do is push on that lever a little bit and give the battery a little tug. You don't want the battery actually falling out, especially when it's mounted on the bottom there. So there you go. That pretty much wraps up the walk around portion of the Mokwheel Basalt and shows you an alternative way to charge and use your battery in more of a utility type environment, which is pretty cool. So that out of the way, let's go throw it to some riding footage and I will talk about that torque sensor and how the Mokwheel rides, and then we'll do our hill climb. And after that, we will wrap it up with our concluding thoughts on the Mokwheel Basalt ST. All right, here we are at the first person riding footage for the Mokwheel Basalt. I'm going to do my best in this part of the video to kind of talk through the difference between a cadence and a torque sensor. The nice thing is, hopefully you'll be able to see it on the display, is they have the power meter on the outside, so you'll be able to see how much power the bike is actually giving you, if it is giving you all of the power that it can, which is kind of nice. So you know, hey, if you need to spin your legs a little bit faster, put in a little bit more effort yourself to get that full power. Or the other option is that it's nice about this bike, even though it has a torque sensor, it does still have a throttle, so that you could very easily apply throttle to get off the line. All right, before we do any of the pedaling portion, let's go ahead and just do a top speed test with throttle alone. Because I believe this bike, or I know this bike is overridden. We went in and you saw that in the settings, as well as this bike has a sticker on it that says it comes shipped as a class 3. So there we go, a little bit of throttle, get off the line. Very quick to get up to speed here. Display is showing 23 miles an hour where the GPS is showing 19. I believe there's always a little bit of a delay here with the GPS catching up, so we'll see. The display is showing 24 miles an hour, 25. There we go, and it looks like the GPS is catching up. So the speed looks to be fairly dialed in, maybe a mile per hour off, somewhere in that neighborhood. But here, this bike just keeps kind of climbing. It's giving you the power in like a little bit of a tapered way. So right now we're getting almost full amount of power and we're up to about 28 miles an hour. So the longer I sit on this throttle, it looks like the more power it's giving me. I can tell that by the outer ring on the display there. And so right now we are pretty much 100% power and we're doing about 29 miles an hour. And I am providing no power of my own via my legs. That's pretty impressive for this caliber of bike especially. So know that you would be able to go fairly quick on just throttle alone, but this is a bicycle after all. So let's go ahead and I'm just gonna shift down to pedal assist level 1, and I'm gonna shift all the way down here on the right-hand side to first gear. And we're gonna go ahead and slow our overall top speed here down. All right, and here we go. Pedal assist level 1. Looks like we're getting somewhere in the 9 to 10 miles an hour range with speed. I'm gonna try and maintain the same cadence. Okay, there we go. Felt the bike back off power there because it's felt that I wasn't giving it enough oomph with my legs, be that it is a torque sensor. So here, maybe this will be the best way to show. So right now, we're doing 11 to 12. It almost like the power's coming on and then immediately kicking off. It's a little interesting. It doesn't feel super smooth, to be honest. But I'm putting this bike to the test. If you were just trying to get up to a certain speed, you would obviously not notice the on-off of the motor here. So I'm gonna be in first gear on the shifter, and I'm just gonna provide more leg effort. And I can see the bike slowly taper in more power here. And so let's see, I can get up to 16 to 18 miles an hour by just providing more leg pressure there. And that was staying in pedal assist level 1. So whereas most bikes would give you, of a cadence sensor, it would give you all of its power if you were providing leg torque. It would provide you whatever power it's dictated to, or to whatever speed on some bikes in pedal assist level 1. Whereas the torque sensor is actually measuring how many rotations you're putting in and how much effort overall, and it determines from there how much power it's going to give you. So it provides a much better push pedal feel. It's a much more pleasurable experience for people that are more avid bike riders. I know it's kind of a split camp as to whether people really like the torque sensor or not. Some people ask for it. Some people prefer cadence sensors. Just depends on, I think, your background and what you're going to be doing with the bike, really. So, all right, I shifted up to second on the shifter here, still in pedal assist level 1. And we kind of know what the top speed is here with just a nice easy cadence. So let's go ahead and shift this up to pedal assist level 2. I felt a little bit more power there. Come on. Again, it's providing the power and then kind of cutting it, which if you notice that maybe a little bit of a drop in speed there. I don't know if that's going to translate onto camera very well. But it looks like here, trying to keep the same nice even cadence, I'd probably shift up to third. There we go. Third on the shifter there feels pretty nice. And as you go up in gears, the more, wattage or torque you're putting in with your legs, the more the torque sensor is going to give you power. So there we go. We're settling in somewhere in the 12 to 13 mile an hour range in pedal assist level 2. Go up to third on the shifter here. And didn't really feel any more power as I was still putting in the same amount of torque. Let's go and shift up to fourth. There we go. Felt the bike give me a little bit more power here. We're getting up to somewhere in the 14 to 16 mile an hour range, 14 to 15. There we go. And I would shift up to pedal assist level 4 now and shift up on the shifter. We're in fifth on the shifter now. There we go. 16 to 17 miles an hour there. Yeah, nice. Again, trying to keep the same cadence because with the torque sensor, it's a little harder because there's not a max speed per se per gear, which is actually nice to see. We like when these bikes aren't speed limited and more torque or power limited via gears or via pedal assist levels, that is. All right, here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and shift up pedal assist level 5. Try and keep the same cadence. I need to shift up on the shifter to 6th and now up to 7th. And the bike almost instantly wants to get up to that 19, 20 mile an hour range. And this is trying to keep a nice, easy cadence. It's going to hold me right there. And like I was saying before, it's not the easiest or it's not the smoothest providing of power. In that case, you can feel the motor really kicking on and off. So it doesn't really taper in the power. It just kind of gives you all the power or none. So it just can feel a little bit startling if you're not prepared for it. All right, here we are back out on the road. And I'm going to just be in pedal to level 5, and I'm just gonna pedal and provide as much power as I can. I am in 7th on the shifter. I wanna see kind of at what power level I start to, I don't know, say ghost pedal. Here we go, 24 miles an hour, still providing power, but my legs are moving pretty quickly. 25, and that's kind of where my legs start to spin a little too freely for my liking. Of course, I can still, if I really wanted to, add in effort. And that motor is giving me 100% now. Let's see here, what are we gonna get up to? Hit 31, 31, 32 miles an hour there. That's pretty good for an e-bike, and it's a decent amount of power. I'm probably a little out of breath on that, but yeah, it's still nice that the bike is capable of reaching that type of speeds. All right, and one last thing here before we throw it to our hill climb test. The bike does have cruise control. Now, I did find it a little bit difficult, per se, to get it set into cruise control. It's not as simple as you hold the throttle in a certain place or anything like that for a period of time. What you actually have to do is you have to hold the throttle, and then with your left hand or thumb while you're holding it, you actually have to hold the down button. And once you have it activated, there will be a little speedometer with like an arrow pointing to it, and it'll maintain a speed there. And here it looks like, so it's not really a speed as I found, it's more of a power level. It kind of locks in a power level per se. It's the amount of throttle you're giving it at that time. So to deactivate it though, you hit the brakes, hit the throttle, or pedal. All of those will deactivate the cruise control. Unlike somewhere we've seen where what it'll actually do is it'll allow you to still use the throttle, or you could pedal past it and then it'll kind of catch you as you're falling back down. This bike was not the case. Once it's set, if you do any of those things, it will deactivate it. And the way you can tell is as soon as you start pedaling, hit the brakes or anything like that, the symbol goes away. So I have to hit the brakes going down this hill here. And yeah, that deactivated it immediately. So it's a nice feature to have, especially if you're on going maybe just a nice straight road out in the country and you just want to kind of cruise at a nice steady pace. It's definitely nice to have that as an option. I'm going to go ahead and slow down here, and I'm just going to give myself a little bit of throttle here, kind of get us up to 18. See that it's holding maybe at that power level right there. It's a little difficult if you have bumpy roads because you're obviously trying to hold your thumb out to engage it. But there we go, holding it at a pretty high power level there, and the bike is just steady accelerating. So it's nice. It'll hold you at whatever speed or power level you set the throttle at. So you see there, it went up a little bit from where I initially had it set, as I think when I was bumping, I was actually hitting the throttle a little bit more. So yeah, it's still a nice feature to have. All right, let me go ahead and finish riding to the bottom of this hill, and we will do our hill climb test, see what this bike is capable of. All right, here we are at the hill climb portion of our Mokwheel Basalt review. In this part, we're gonna take the bike up the hill, first time on throttle alone, second time on pedaling, to kind of show you maybe how that torque sensor acts going up a hill. On my way back down between the throttle and pedaling portion, I'm actually going to give the brakes a good test, just to kind of see what they're capable of. We expect high things out of these Tektro brakes. So, all right, here we go. Just give myself a little bit of throttle. Actually, give myself all the throttle to get started to go up the hill here. Here we go. So this is a little bit of a down portion, and then right here at these black and yellow signs, the hill really starts. We'll put the specs for the hill on the screen now. This is not the steepest hill in our area, but it is a nice consistent hill, and kind of gives you the idea. It's got a little bit of a hill here, and then it kind of levels out, and then there is a fairly steep part of the hill. So again, first time up here, no pedaling from me, just throttle. So it looks like we're, I don't know, hitting about 20 miles an hour there on that little bit of a hill. This powerful motor is probably gonna make it up this hill with little issue. One thing to note, on my way over here to do this hill climb test, I was just kind of riding on throttle and holding it for wide open for a little while. And this bike hit 32 miles an hour on throttle alone. It was a flat parcel of land, of course, but we had no issues getting up to that speed. So, all right, here we go. We really feel the speed slowing down here. I can see how much power on this outer meter the bike is providing, and it's definitely falling off. The bike's battery was completely charged before the first person riding part. We did a little bit of first person riding, and now we are doing our hill climb test on the same charge. So not 100% charged, but really close. So let's see, the phone here is showing 7 to 8 and 6, okay. And then the speed on the actual bike is falling. Like I said, they're off by about maybe a mile per hour. That can be adjusted in the settings if we really wanted to. There we go. So it felt like 6 or 7 there. Really settled in. The hill was still pretty steeply going, and the bike felt like it settled in and like hit its minimum amount of torque and really was pulling me up. So yeah, and remember, I am a 225-pound rider. So the fact that it was able to carry me up that hill on just throttle power alone is pretty impressive. Let's go back down, give the brakes a test, and come back up while pedaling. All right, here we are back down at the bottom of the hill. If you look here, my new maximum speed is 37 miles an hour. Yep, I got to 37 miles an hour coming down the hill. Brakes stopped, no problem. And we are in pedal assist level 1 and 1 on the shifter. And here we go on our way up. Let's see, yeah, providing a decent cadence here, a little bit of pressure. This is kind of a steep part of the first hill here. And yeah, I'm able to still make it up, no problem. I would probably shift up power levels there on that steep of a hill, just to give myself a little boost here. And remember, this is a torque sensor, so I could work my legs a little bit harder, and you will watch the power meter here in front of you climb up, but we're gonna try and keep the same cadence all the way up. So I'm gonna slow it down a little bit, and the power kind of tapers off. So here we are, shifted still into first on the shifter, but in pedal assist level 2. And I'm going to shift up to pedal assist level 3, still in 1. At this point, I would probably shift up to 2 on the shifter side. Yeah, setting into a nice easy cadence. That's all we're trying to maintain going up a hill. So one thing I like to call it too, in this part, I was mentioning before, kind of the power tapering in and out, as the motor feels fit or the torque sensor feels fit. What I noticed with that is that if you're not prepared for it, especially going up a hill, it can be a little bit startling. So just be aware. You want to try and keep the same cadence all the way up. It's a little bit as if you were hitting, say, your brake sensor and cutting motor power. So I shift up to pedal assist level 4 now, and felt a little bit more power come in. It does taper the power nicely. Just that initial providing of power, that could be adjusted now that I'm thinking about that with the intensity option inside of the display. Pedal assist level 5. Once you get up there to pedal assist level 5, I'm still in 2 on the shifter. I felt the power kick in, and I'm still providing the same cadence. We're doing 9, 10 miles an hour, about 2 to 3 miles an hour faster than the minimum speed on throttle alone. If I had started in 5th, maybe to go up the hill, it would have made it up the hill at a much higher speed. I could definitely just feel the amount of extra power that came on. Also, judging by that outer power ring. It's nice, you can kind of, if you ride the same route, maybe dial in your riding characteristics via your legs and what gear you go into if you ride those hills frequently. All right, that pretty much wraps up our first person and hill climb footage of the Mokwheel Basalt. Let's go and throw to some third person riding footage, and I'll give you my concluding thoughts on this brightly colored fat tire e-bike.
Having never reviewed a Mokwheel e-bike on the channel, we thought the Basalt would be an interesting first model for us to review. The Basalt e-bike is from a collection that Mokwheel refers to as the Power Station e-bikes. This is of course because of their ability to be charged via solar panels and or use the bike battery as a camping/portable battery bank. The extra utility is not something that we have seen before and is a very smart way to add some extra utility and function over a standard e-bike. Of course, you have to purchase these solar panels and inverters separately to use this function, which doesn't come cheap. Both required items cost almost $1,000, which is on top of the $1,899 price at time of filming cost of the Basalt e-bike itself. But thankfully, the Mokwheel Basalt is a decently spec'd and capable e-bike when compared to other fat tire e-bikes that we've reviewed. But with the bonus, of course, of being able to be powered by the sun. The 19.6 amp hour battery and 750 watt nominal motor were capable of carrying me, a 225 pound rider, to a very impressive 30 miles per hour. The 7-speed Shimano drivetrain operated nicely, but sports the typical 14 to 28 tooth rear freewheel. The downfall of this 14 tooth rear freewheel is that you do experience ghost pedaling at higher speeds, which I did experience. However, thanks to Mokwheel's choice to outfit the Basalt with a torque sensor, it was only at those higher speeds that I was wishing for that drivetrain change. The tuning of the motor engagement and disengagement when hitting that torque limit was a bit more noticeable than I had experienced on other torque sensor e-bikes, but overall the push pedal experience was very enjoyable. Another benefit of a torque sensor is that thanks to its ability to measure your pedaling more precisely, it's able to use the battery more efficiently, which allows that 19.6 amp hour battery to have a claimed range of 60 to 80 miles, which given my past experience is a very achievable number. The smooth frame of the Basalt sports nice styling and smooth areas where we typically see welding. The Basalt ST has a respectable 350 pound total payload capacity, and if you need a bit more capacity, check out the high step version, as that model has a 400 pound total payload capacity. Basalt models come in with weights between 75 and 80 pounds when fully loaded. That weight is a bit better than average, especially when you consider the motor performance, battery size, and that it comes nicely outfitted with fenders and a rear rack. If you need some more cargo options, Mokwheel sells a front rack and other baskets. And there are some other great aftermarket options also available. Check out our shop linked in the description for some of our top recommendations. Mokwheel Basalt ST large frame fit me, a 5'7" rider with a 29-inch inseam, very well. But when referencing the website for frame measurements, I found something interesting. The two frame options for the Basalt step-thru sport the same frame measurements, but with different seat tube and stem lengths. If you find yourself on the lower end of the height recommendations, I would recommend looking into the Mokwheel Scora. It features all the same components as the Basalt, but with 20-inch wheels. Let us know if you would like to see a review of that model. I also have to point out the 6 different color options. The colors range all the way from jungle camo to a bright orange like the one we picked. Having so many color options to choose from will allow you to pick the right one for your use case. The Basalt's Tektro hydraulic disc brakes and color LCD displays are features that we like to see, especially at this price point. The Basalt's name brand components and the ability for the end user to also adjust display settings are things that we don't always see. Have to call it out though, there is a difficulty seeing the display in direct sunlight or if wearing polarized sunglasses. But to be clear though, this is an issue with all color LCD displays and not just Mokwheels. The Mokwheel Basalt performed great for us out of the box and presented no issues. But something that should be considered before purchase, use our link in the description to help show support if you do decide to buy a Mokwheel e-bike, is that the company has support that is based in China. So while this is not always a negative, it does mean that problems can take a bit longer to get solved, and of course there may be language barriers as well. If you happen to own a Mokwheel, please share your experience so we know whether this is a brand that we should continue to feature. And as general advice, don't always trust the customer reviews on a manufacturer's website. In short, the Mokwheel Basalt stands out from the crowded fat tire market thanks to its torque sensor, inverter/solar options, and high top speed, even if that means it doesn't fit nicely into a classification. What overall did you think of the Mokwheel Basalt? Is this a brand that you consider purchasing from? Let us know in the comments down below. And we appreciate any support that you show us after clicking any link in the description down below prior to making your purchase. Ride safe for everyone, and I'll catch you all in the next one.